Hello, Teklians. Welcome to episode 34. We're going to give a Sci-Fi shout out. A Sci-Fi shout out to some Sci-Fi. Right? That sounds right. I think I nailed that.
That sounds good to me. You call it Sci-Fi. But before we talk about sci-fi, we get some announcements, as usual. Actually, we don't always have announcements. I just make stuff up. We do not have a working chat this week. Chris done messed it up. It's all his fault.
Hey, it's not my fault. They're having server problems.
They're having server issues.
If it was on my server, it'd be fine.
We are going to be trying out this new thing, see how it works. It's called hat-to-hat combat.
Explosions, loud noises, Michael Bay.
Basically, we do a hat tip every week. You guys should know that if you watch. And now you're going to get 1 week's time from Wednesday to Sunday. You have a chance to vote on who you thought had the better hat tip. Myself or Risky, but you're not going to vote for him. So, but you're going to get this chance every week to vote who you thought has the best hat tip. And this makes it basically so it's fun for you, fun for us, and it makes us want to come up with really good hat tips because we want to win. I want to win. Last announcement before we get to our sci-fi shoutouts. We might be having a format change. We're not set on this. We kind of think we like it. And that's just, we're not going to have set topics anymore. It's becoming a little difficult for us sometimes to keep the shows shorter and we get off topic, but we're just going to basically, Teklian Live is just going to be that. We're going to come live. We're going to talk about stuff.
Just anything interesting that has come up throughout the week.
Yeah, because we also have a lot of issues where something comes up and it's Google related or Android related. And it doesn't fit into sci-fi shoutout, but our next Google episode or Android episode is 3-4 weeks away. It's like, by the time that reaches, it is no longer relevant. You all heard about it. You all know about it. You don't want to hear it again. So basically, every week we're going to bring up some relevant stuff and then whatever interests us.
It'll be more casual, more fun, more to what matters right now.
Speaking of casual and fun, it is our sci-fi shout-out week, so I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt, not my normal get-up. That was totally planned. It had nothing to do with the fact that I wore my Star Wars shirt all day and then realized, wait a minute, my button-down's at the other house. That is not at all what happened. I came prepared wearing a Star Wars shirt for the sci-fi episode. It wasn't just like a coincidence or something, you know.
It was destiny.
Speaking of destiny, it's a sci-fi we're not talking about today, but I love that ship. I want that.
It is the greatest ship in the universe, in the Stargate universe. We're not going to talk about Stargate. What are you talking about?
It's the greatest ship in the universe. Like, I don't care what universe you're talking about. Destiny is the greatest.
Destiny versus the Tardis.
Destiny.
If they had the Tardis, they'd be home.
I'm talking about the ship. I'm not talking about the setting of the show or the premise or anything like that. I'm just talking about the ship.
The interior of the Tardis can look exactly like the Destiny.
Yeah, but the Destiny had a wicked sick exterior as well.
That is true.
Actually...
But a functional TARDIS can look like...
Yeah, a functional TARDIS can look on the outside like the Destiny. So I think I would pick a functional TARDIS.
There you go.
My option was Police Box TARDIS or Destiny. I think I'd pick Destiny even though I don't have the time travel capability. I could always shoot myself through a sun or something. I don't know.
That usually works.
Can't really control where I end up, but...
Who cares? You might start a new civilization.
Yeah. I actually started humanity, by the way. That whole came from chimpanzee things. Yeah, that was only half of it.
The chimpanzee was actually Joe.
Who's going first?
You're going first. It's just first on the list. I thought you were all picky about that.
Usually I am. I don't like going first. I always feel like following up, you know. All right, fine. Now it's your chance. You have to now better me because I'm going first.
Oh, that's easy.
Really? With what your shout-out's to? That's
Yeah.
easy? My shout-out is to a movie called Gattaca. Gattaca is kind of a bit of an old sci-fi movie. I believe it came out in the 90s. I just typed in Gattaca. That should be a movie, Gattaca.
It should. Gattaca. It should be Gattaca with cats.
That'd be awesome. Gattaca is this movie that takes place in the future, but it's one of those movies where even though it takes place in the future, everything looks like 1950. So I hate and love those movies at the same time. At one point, I'm like, why? It's the future. Why is everything so
Old
old
looking.
old looking? Yeah, why is everything so old looking? But at the same time, I get this like feeling like, oh, this is cool. Like it's all old looking, but they're all more advanced than we are. And then you have stuff. This is the real strange thing about this movie is it takes place in the future. Came out in 1997, but it takes place in the future. Everything looks old, and they have like cars that look old, but they're all electric. You hear like an electric hum when they're driving and stuff. But one of the key points in the movie is this guy wants to go to space and he's working on a shuttle launch. Like it's a big thing. Like they don't know how to get it done. And it's like, we've known shuttle launches for a while now. So there's some questionable stuff in it, but the main part of the movie is it's all about genetic manipulation. And the movie was made shortly after in vitro fertilization became like a thing. It went from something like we think this might work to, this is a viable option for people who are having trouble creating offspring. But they live in a future where if you are actually a child of natural birth, you're shunned upon. And they actually have tests that confirm it and everything. And you are actually shunned upon. You can't get a job. You can't do anything. They do these tests where they know how and when you're going to die approximately. And all these different things. And basically, unless you're genetically made, you're not good. There's actually a scene in the movie where someone goes, where they have these booths where people can go and take a piece of hair or some saliva or something that they took from someone they were with and test to see what the chances are of them or whatever creating good offspring and everything. And it's really messed up. But when you look at some of the things that are happening, especially this happened right after in vitro fertilization. Since then, we've gotten the ability to choose hair color, eye color, gender. We can screen out disabilities, which is a really good thing. We're now getting to the point where you can actually have 3-parent babies. Talked about that in previous episodes, so I'm not going to get into it. You can do a Google search. It's a little creepy, but it helps out weed out more disabilities. And it basically, the show is saying we're going to get to a point where unless you were genetically made to be perfect, then you don't have a chance in the world, and they won't let you try to get a chance. They just assume you're not nearly as good as someone who was genetically made to not have a weak heart, not be susceptible to emotional disorders, not be susceptible to mental disorders, anything at all like that. And it's really hard to describe more than that without giving away stuff in the movie, but it's a really good movie, and I highly recommend checking it out. And it really is a good point. I just love the idea of genetic manipulation changing the way that we function as a society. And it's true that it could get there one day, and you don't want to see stuff like this happen.
It's cool because like they're all like designed. It's kind of like, you want to have a baby? Let's go and pick out our baby. Let's go design it.
And the scary thing is you can kind of, if you have the money to spend on in vitro, which is really expensive still these days, you can still do that today. You can actually go and choose, I want a girl, and I want, as long as your 2 genes allow it, you can be like, if someone in your family at all has had blue eyes within the last like 4 generations, they can give the kid blue eyes. Like the hair color, with the exception of natural blonde, which is again is the same as the blue eyes, I think, they can give him whatever hair color you want them to have. They can decrease the chances of heart disease still, and they're getting better and better at every year. So it's kind of creepy because it started off with like this good intention thing, and now it's turning into designer babies. Yeah. It's like going to Build-A-Bear Workshop. It's like Build-A-Kid Workshop. It's like
really, and that's the crazy thing about Gattaca is that they were thinking way ahead about that stuff, and it could like get that way. And it's very realistic that one day everybody's so into designing their child that you're looked down upon if you were just natural. It's like, oh, you weren't designed to not get diseases and all these defects and stuff.
Another thing though about it, which was cool, like that whole thing where, like saying you're a bad parent because you didn't have your kid designed, you didn't have your kid, whatever, you had him naturally, was you still get some of that today. Even today, I've actually been on the receiving end of it. And it's, if you have any type of disability or issue at all, people today would say, why would you have a kid? Why would you do that? Why would you take the risk of your kid coming into life with what may be a problem? And I have a genetic disorder, and I may have passed it to my kid. We don't know yet. It's too soon. But there have been people that have already said to me, why would you do that? Why would you choose to have a kid knowing there's a chance to pass it on to your child? It's like, it's not like I'm not going to love my child. It's not a problem that's going to threaten his life. I mean, I look at it as also, why should I not be allowed to have children? I love my son. My son's a happy son. The exception of right now because his mom went for a walk. He's a happy kid. He has everything he could want. I mean, we tend to spoil him once in a while, but it's like, I don't know. We even get some of that now where it's like, oh, well, why wouldn't you at least go and do this? And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't have $10,000 to spend on in vitro. My insurance doesn't cover that. Like, what I have is something that if I had in vitro, I could make sure he didn't have, but I don't have $10,000 to spend.
Yeah. And I think Gattaca is in a world where it's just kind of common.
Yeah.
It's like, we live in a world where you can go build your own teddy bear. You can go into Build-A-Bear and build a teddy bear. Just, that's the one I want. That's the outfit I want. And we are today living in the world equivalent to back when you couldn't build your own Build-A-Bear.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go buy one. Those weirdos and their like pre-designed teddy bears.
Where you have this, and this as an option, and that's it.
Yeah.
You had whatever the store had.
All right, so before I move on to my sci-fi shout-out, why is that such a hard word to say? Sci-fi shout-out.
Sci-Fi.
My sci-fi shout-out. Sci-fi shout-out. I want to talk about one of our affiliates, which is Vudu. You like Vudu? Not that kind of Vudu.
I'm eating my dinner. Yeah, I like Vudu.
Vudu is a streaming movies, TVs on demand. They actually have a section on there, which I thought was pretty funny. They have a not on Netflix section.
Really?
Yeah, you can go there and you can see a list of things that are on there that aren't on Netflix.
That's actually really cool. Over 80,000 titles on Vudu.
So we have a special fancy smancy link. If you go on over to Teklian.TV/Vudu, use our special link and you can get five free HDX movies. They have this they have a disc to digital thing, which is basically if you own physical DVDs and you want them to own them in a digital library, you're basically paying for your movie again, but you're paying for the service to convert them and store them in Vudu in your library. So, I mean, it's kind of like, if you look at the alternative, what's the alternative? That you're like, I have this whole stack of movies. I don't really watch the physical discs anymore because I like to stream everything. So what is your alternative is to buy that again digitally. And there are all kinds of crazy laws now where backing up your own DVDs and discs and stuff that you already own. Like there was some story about you can get, what is it, $10,000 fine for backing up a DVD that you already own. But they're really trying to crack down on like piracy and all this stuff. So I mean, they're kind of assuming that if you're backing up, you're also going to share that.
And that goes against kind of the whole American belief of, innocent until proven guilty. They're basically going, because you backed it up, you're guilty because there's a chance there may have been an intention to do something unlawful. Yeah,
you're doing something that you could do something bad with, so we're going to assume that you're doing the bad thing with it. So if you have all these stacks of DVDs laying around, you can go to Vudu and they'll use their software. It converts it, puts it into the library. It's as low as $2 each for standard definition for DVDs and Blu-rays. Goes up to a big about $5 each. It's definitely cheaper than just buying it again digitally.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like 12 to 20 something bucks a movie. So it's definitely cheap. If you use our link, Teklian.TV/Vudu, you'll get your first digital conversion for free. You can try it out, see what it's like.
And one question that I actually don't know the answer to, does Vudu work with Chromecast?
Yes, it does.
It does.
Boom. So go check them out, Teklian.TV/Vudu, and check out some sci-fi. Check out Gattaca. Gattaca's probably on there. You know what else may be on there? Lexx, which is my sci-fi shout-out this time. So Lexx has been around for a while. Hasn't been around. It's kind of old. It was 97 to 2002. So it's kind of an old show. It's so super incredibly cheesy and goofy. My wife couldn't stand watching it with me. She was like, this is so negative words. But I love it. I know that doesn't help with my shout out, but go check it out. Go love it. Go love it too. I thought it was hilarious. There's a lot of humor in it. The main character is a man named Stanley Tweedle, and he's like a security guard type of thing. What it is there are two universes. There's a light universe and a dark zone. And basically, like wherever you are, you can, if you have a ship powerful enough or the technology powerful enough, you kind of like warp into your same location in the other universe. It's kind of like it's like a parallel universe, but not quite parallel because there's different planets and systems and stuff in each one. So they're kind of like two separate things. So they pretty much exist in the light universe, and then there's the dark zone, and there's this ruler that's kind of like the ruler of the light universe. His name is his divine shadow. And there's this constant war between like the humans and like this bug type civilization. So Stanley is a security guard, but he's one of those people that has like really big dreams. Like he's really inspired to like go out and do something with his life, but he's just like a little nobody security guard. So he kind of does something different at his work, gets into some crap, has to try to escape. There's this woman named Zev she was punished because she didn't want to marry somebody because it was like an arranged marriage, and she didn't want to marry them because she didn't love them. So her punishment was to become a love slave. And she was like a really big, unattractive woman. And so she becomes a love slave. They put her in this machine that like transforms her into like this supermodel looking thing. And then there's this part that's supposed to come down onto her head and transform her brain to just want to be a love slave, basically. It's really weird. It makes sense though when you watch it. But she kind of fights her way out of it, and there's this robot head. Can't go into details of exactly what happened, but basically a robot gets broken, falls into the thing as the mind brainwashing thing comes down, and it basically brainwashes the robot. So the robot has the mind of the love slave. And the first thing it sees is Zev when she comes out of the thing. She's been transformed. So this robot head, his name is 790, is madly in love with her and just wants to be around her all the time. And that's part of where a lot of the humor comes in, is this robot head pretty much hates everybody else. And he has a very snarky attitude. And he hates everybody, can't stand Stanley, the main character, hates him more than anything, but is madly in love and obsessed with Zev. And he's just a little robot head. So he's constantly like flirting and all this stuff. And then there's another character named Kai, who is an undead divine assassin. Basically, his divine shadow has these assassins that are kind of like zombies-ish. They're dead and then brought back to life. Not brought back to life, but reanimated. So they're still dead. He has no emotions. He can't get injured, can't die, doesn't need to eat, doesn't need to breathe or sleep or anything. So the three of them, including and the robot head, so the four of them, all get mixed up and end up trying to escape, and they escape in the Lexx. So Lexx is the name of the ship, and the ship is it's basically the most powerful ship in the two universes, and it is like a living ship. It's a giant bug, basically. And the key for the Lexx is like this living energy that exists inside of the hand of whoever's the captain, and it can be transferred upon that captain's death. So you can't actually steal the key. You can't go up to somebody and just take the key. If you kill somebody and they don't willingly transfer that key to somebody, the key dies with them, and now nobody can control the ship. So something happens, and Stanley gets the key. It goes into his hand, and he's just some nobody security guard who now has the key to the most powerful ship in the two universes. So they escape onto the ship. And so a lot of the story, there are 4 seasons of the show. A lot of the story in the first couple seasons is just them trying to outrun people who are coming after them. And every episode they go to a new planet, and there's all kinds of weirdness that goes on. And it's cool because eventually the whole light universe is destroyed. There's this enemy named Mantrid, I believe is what his name is in here. Mantrid. He's weird, like a human cyborg type of thing. He's like a head put onto a machine who floats around, and he has these arms that kind of float next to him, and they're like separate so they can fly away separate from the body. He does this weird thing where he kind of basically he evolves or mutates to a point where he's just kind of like a replicator from Stargate, where it's just a bunch of these flying hands that go around and they basically convert matter into more of themselves. So one of the big things in one of the seasons is that basically everything in the universe becomes that. So when all the matter in the entire universe collects into one spot, it pretty much destroys that universe. And then they escape to the dark zone. And there's this really awesome story. They kind of tie in a heaven and hell story. You got to try to think of the storyline in the movie separate from reality, because it's kind of like they're trying to explain heaven and hell. But in this Lexx universe, heaven and hell are a twin planet in Earth's exact orbit, but on the opposite side of the sun, so you never actually see it. And Earth, when they go there and this story happens, is modern Earth. Modern at the time of filming anyway. So it's not like ancient times. These planets used to exist. So one of the planets is like dry and has a really evil ruler. It's just like a desert planet, and that's supposed to represent hell. And then the other planet is water. It's kind of like a paradise, and everybody's like really nice. And that's like the heaven planet. They end up battling between the two planets, and then they find Earth. But the entire story of Lexx kind of spans over thousands of years. There's a point where the planet, the crazy thing about the planet is, or the ship Lexx, is when it's running low on fuel, they can just have it eat something. They just have it eat a planet or something. Because it's a living ship, it's a giant bug, and it'll like crash into something and just like devour it, and then that's what powers the ship. So when they escape to the dark zone, which is our universe, there wasn't anything within range for it to eat for power, so it had to just kind of drift. So there wasn't any like food and resources on the ship for the characters, so they just kind of went into stasis, and the ship was just going to drift until it was within range of something, and turned out to be about 4,000 years they had to be in stasis and just drifting. And so that kind of happened between seasons. I think it was between season like 2 and 3. It's really fun. There's a lot of like goofy stuff that happens. It's really cheesy. It's not all that clever, but I really enjoyed it because it was really goofy. There's a lot of humor, especially with the robot head, because he's obsessed with Zev. And then there's something happens where he like falls really, really far and breaks. And Kai, the undead assassin, repairs him. So when he repairs him and the robot head boots up, because Kai is now the first thing he sees, he kind of switches, and now he's madly in love with Kai for like another season or so. And then it just gets really hilarious because he just like hates everybody else, and everybody is kind of adjusting like, wow, that's weird. He used to love me, but now he loves him. And it's really funny. I definitely recommend you go check it out. Like I said, it's very cheesy, but it's fun. It's a fun thing to watch.
Definitely sounds funny. Sounds a little cheesy. I'll definitely try to make time to watch it when I get on some Netflix hours in. I'm still trying to work my way slowly through Farscape.
Farscape is amazing.
I haven't gotten to that yet. I don't know. I just don't. That's why I'm having so much trouble getting through it. I had somebody at work that watches it too, and he told me you have to really get through like the first half of the first season before it really turns into like a good plot and everything. I don't know.
Yeah. See, in their main villain, I'll try not to give you any spoilers, but there's like this main situation that's happening right now, and that kind of gets boring. Once they get over that, things change a lot, especially with that villain. When they get into like the more awesome villains in the show, it gets really good. But see, for me, it was the same way with Doctor Who. When I first started watching the first season of the new Doctor Who from 2005, it wasn't until I got near the end of the season that I was actually starting to get into it. So I kind of try to give shows more of a chance.
Yeah. Alrighty then. So that was our sci-fi shout out.
Sci-fi shout out.
So Gattaca, check that out, and Lexx, check that out. Lexx, you say, should be on Netflix. Gattaca was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. Let me take a quick look-see.
I can tell you right now that Lexx is not on Vudu, but Gattaca is on Vudu. So if that is an option, head over to Teklian.TV/Vudu, get yourself some free movies, and check out Gattaca.
And Lexx is unavailable to stream right now.
That's
available. It's available on Netflix DVD, but they haven't made it available for streaming at the moment. I guess it was at one point.
Yeah,
because you watched it, obviously. But it gives you some options. It says after searching for this title, many members stream Farscape, Red Dwarf, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Enterprise.
I think that's how I actually found Lexx, was watching Farscape.
Yeah. Red Dwarf is one I've always wanted to try too. I've heard it's kind of a bit of a goofy British like sci-fi comedy type thing.
Yeah. 9 series, wow.
Yeah.
Gotta set some time aside for that.
1988 to 2009. That's a long period of time for 9 series too. That's like 20 years.
All right, so these may make the list for our next sci-fi shout out, whenever that'll be.
Find out.
Visit us next week. We have no topic. We're going to talk about whatever we feel like, whatever is relevant throughout the week. That's what we're going to talk about.
We're trying out that new format next week. We're just going to think of some relative things that happen, throw it in the rundown, and when our episode comes, whatever we've thrown in there is what we're going to talk about. And probably other stuff that comes up during the show, because we get off topic a lot.
Yeah, we do. We'll let you know throughout the week if there's anything really interesting that we would like people to participate in.
If you want us to talk about anything in particular, shoot us a message, let us know, comment on something that we post. Tell us. We'll do it. Most likely.
Probably. Depends on on what
Jinx,
it
you
is.
owe me a Coke.
I don't owe you nothing. It's a double negative. I don't owe you nothing. It means I owe you something.
0 hour.
0 hour.
Oh, but no one uses UTC. So I guess I'll just say Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific.
Just look for the post.
Just look for them. We'll let you know.
It'll be up like a half hour before we're on. And then we'll be on a half hour after we said we would be on. Joe's eating pizza.
It's good.